You know it's bad when a game developer has to write a blog post prior to putting out patch notes for an update that tries to do damage control, because even though they've disappointed so many times in the past, gamers will still be let down by the failure to deliver on their promises, which is just a de facto standard in this live service buzzword excuse to ship a bare bones effort. But in order to convince people to actually buy it when it launches, they overpromise and then underdeliver later, because that whole fixing bugs thing gets in the way of working on new beepity bops. While DICE had promised to deliver both private games and Firestorm looting changes, as well as a respawn mechanic during Chapter 4, which had technically ended way back on September 19th, but DICE has had so many delays in fixing the game that they broke back when this season started. The RSP replacement is going to be delivered sometime in Chapter 5, kicking the can down the road, coming at the end of October at the earliest, according to a calendar that I'll touch on in a bit. And the Firestorm updates are on hold and being reevaluated, which is just the fourth phase of the DICE philosophy, going from promise to delayed to soon to reevaluation to canceled, in similar vein to the 5v5 game mode, because the team is focusing on the core Battlefield experience. Never mind the fact that if the Battle Royale mode had actually launched with a loot system that wasn't the worst implementation in any Last One Standing Wins offering, in spite of there being tons of perfectly good examples to pull from after the mode was delayed until March, there would actually be more people playing it in the first place, so it wouldn't need this deprioritization in a chicken or egg type problem. So what the fuck did DICE actually deliver in update 4.6 if it wasn't the shit that they said they were going to, in that annoying ass roadmap that hasn't been correct from the moment it was revealed, aside from fixes for things that developers broke in the previous patch, like high ping indicators that were display only in nature, and somehow making the shittiest loot system in Firestorm even worse than when it launched, but is still not the improved upon mechanics that I noted earlier? Well, Al Sandan is finally playable in Conquest and Breakthrough. Yes, that map that launched 3 fucking months ago in smaller game modes that nobody bothers playing Battlefield 4 actually gives a shit about, is now finally playable in the only other permanent game modes that Battlefield 5 currently has to offer, after DICE has actively taken away some, not to make it harder on themselves to figure out how to plot out domination flags and frontliner rush objectives. Of course, in typical 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards fashion, the 4.6 update introduced a bug where players that pushed the Xbox home button on their controller would be kicked out of lobbies, because apparently that shitty UI still infests its games even after all of the redesigns. But at least that was hotfixed yesterday. And no, features from previous titles are still nowhere to be found, like the ability to switch teams or even a team balancer, so that games aren't more lopsided than ones played by Miami sports teams. Sorry, Marlins and Dolphins fans. They did finally incorporate some UI changes to mimic the ones from Battlefield 4 and Hardline, where icons of ammo, health, and repairs would actually show up on the minimap, so that, you know, that team play element that Battlefield is supposed to be known for actually works better now. But that's at least a step towards having this product at least attempt to incorporate things that were standard in Battlefield titles of the past. But don't worry, immersion breaking slowdowns while performing actions like using throwables or healing are now gone. Firestorm revives are now not as clunky as its looting system, and the M1907 has the correct ammo count in the practice range, even though that thing has been as useful as a lesbian's uterus, since you can't even put your own personal specializations on the weapons and vehicles that you could use in it, and has been that way for almost 10 goddamn months now, since it launched back in December. Well, at least pistols other than the revolver are now viable, and they also nerfed the MMGs by having people shooting from prone not being able to turn as fast while aiming, probably a good thing with the release of Operation Underground today, aka Metro in World War II, with a lot less playable space on one side of the tunnel, because the iconic rush somehow is in a permanent mode in this game, so why bother putting in the effort to make that playable space in the park prior to the tunnel entrance with this reimagining? Technically, DICE did put the map in the game files for the 4.6 update, even though it's not playable until they activated it today, which is how the development studio is now going to get away with actually fulfilling their promises in a pathetic weaseling of changing the goalposts. Even though they just nerfed the MMGs and grenade spam is nowhere near as bad as it was in past Battlefield games, I can't wait for ass clowns to just toss out dynamite like rice at a wedding instead of actually using their aim to kill people on this map, which is back for the 3rd fucking time. Even though it's supposed to be set in Hamburg, Germany, the Rathaus Platz U-Bahn station is actually in Vienna, Austria, which did actually have a subway during World War II, but we all know that historical accuracy isn't this game's strong suit. Since we're in this weird limbo state before the Pacific Theater in Chapter 5's Awakening the Giant, DICE conveniently decided that now would be a good time for their annual Battlefest event that doesn't have a set period of the year when it occurs. So during these 4 weeks, there will be a special Tides of War that actually screws over players, since they can't earn any Chapter 4 rewards during this time period, by using a psychological tactic of fear of missing out to ensure that that players are constantly playing the same shit over and over again. You'll get company coin instead of Tides of War XP and rewards, and given DICE's track record of marking any of the halfway decent cosmetic items as epic to skirt the in-game currency in favor of actual cash money for boins, this isn't so much a reward as another broken promise to lament over. For rewards, in the first week is the easily ported over from Battlefield 1 Madsen LMG for the support class. Week 2 is a vehicle skin just to rub it in the face of people asking about something that was touted on reveal with the game's advertising as a feature of tank customization that is still not in the game to this day. Week 3 is another easy port over from the prior title with the C96 Trench Carbine for the Scout class, and in Week 4 is a community type challenge, 1 million kills or assists between all Battlefield players to unlock the Fliegerfaust anti-air gadget for the Assault class. Oh, and to continue with the recycled maps trend, there are now 4 maps in the game files for the Pacific Theater, with Wake Island and Iwo Jima from Battlefield 1943, along with 2 generic titled ones, Jungle and Tropic Islands, because DICE is the greenest company around, constantly reusing things from previous games. Considering that there are 4 weeks in Battlefest leading up to Chapter 5, and each chapter lasts 12 weeks from the previous chapter's durations, it means that the vague Chapter 5 private games promise can come anywhere from November until mid-January of 2020, so let's see if DICE actually hits that elongated target. Anyways, what do you think about the quote return of Metro, and was Al Soon Dan worth the wait? Let me know in the comment section down below. I've been DashSchwanz27, out like the Oakland A's. Until next time.